In this video, we'll be talking all about letters you can send medical schools as you are waiting to hear back from them. There are letters of intent and letters of interest, so we will kind of be going over the differences and in what scenarios you would send either of them. Before we get to that though, I want to acknowledge that I know that the waiting process is very stressful. I remember it well. Months of not really knowing if you will get an interview, and then after doing an interview, if you get one, even more months of waiting for an acceptance. It's agonizing, especially because the schools you are applying to don't give you any sort of timeline while you wait. You just have to mindlessly wait. Well, while you are waiting, there is one more productive thing that you can do, and that is to write a letter to the school affirming your interest in attending. There are two different kinds of letters. There are ones meant for intent and ones meant for interest, and the difference is important to understand. Letters of intent are only meant to be sent to the top school on your list, the school that, should you be accepted, you will accept enrollment at. It is a letter expressing your commitment to attend, and in the letter you are explaining why you think you'll be a great fit for the program. If you watched my video on secondary essays, you'll remember that I told you to do some research on the schools and prepare for the "why do you want to come here" question. This is a great time to answer it. Showing reasons why you specifically want to attend a given program will only strengthen your letter. Letters of intent are also good for medical schools. This is because they want to maximize the percentage of admitted students who choose to enroll because it improves the school's rank, exclusivity, and prestige. Therefore, if there are two candidates competing for one spot, they will always take the one that sends the letter of intent. The only thing you should know about sending a letter of intent is that it's probably better to wait a bit longer in the application process before sending one. Namely, waiting until after receiving an interview. It would look kind of weird to send in a letter of intent saying you will absolutely attend if selected when you haven't even been through the interview process and know what the school is like. However, there is another opportunity for you to send a letter that isn't so strong, and that would be a letter of interest. You can send these letters to any schools that you are interested in and would consider attending should you be accepted. They aren't as impactful as a letter of intent, but it is nice because this is the kind of letter that might score you an interview in the first place. You don't have to wait as long to send these letters. Similar to the intent letter, you should also voice why you would specifically be interested in a school's program, what attracts you to it, and what you can offer that would match up with what the school is looking for in a candidate. During that super long waiting period, schools may choose not to offer you an interview because if they don't hear anything about you, they may just assume your priorities are elsewhere. So letters of interest are great at reminding the schools, hey, I'm still interested and you should give me a shot. These are two examples from Shemmassian who I have referenced before, but they do a really good job at outlining what letters might look like. On the left, we have a letter of intent, and on the right is a letter of interest. If you want to find out more about these letters in general, check out their page, which I have put a link for at the bottom. Now, take a look at some of the themes in both these letters, since we already talked about the differences. Notice how the person writing it is expressing not only why they would be a good student, but also updating the admissions committee with activities that have been going on ever since submitting the application. Part of the problem with having this giant wait period is that it's hard for schools to find out any additional updates you may have in your life. For instance, if you are doing research and get something published after submitting your applications, a letter could be a great way of updating them and letting them know of your achievement. Also, the same guidelines as your essays on the application apply here too. Make sure there aren't any grammar issues and always have other people proofread it. The more critique you get on your writing, the better it will become. Okay, finally, just a few tips on the letters themselves and how to go about sending them. First off, and this is something that those example letters didn't do, I would recommend addressing the Dean of Admissions directly. Even if it doesn't go to him or her, it shows that you did your research. Better yet, if you're able to find the email address of the Dean of Admissions, send it to them directly. When you send it though, send it as a PDF attachment so it's easy for them to read. Speaking of which, you should also keep it to roughly 1 page in length, which also makes it easier to read. Also, please don't lie on these things. Don't just make up a bunch of achievements that you haven't actually done, and definitely don't send out more than one letter of intent. Now yes, none of this is binding at all, but it's all about your integrity. What happens if you send out a letter of intent to multiple schools, you get accepted, and now you have to tell the other school you can't come even though you promised you would? Well, the school might end up doing some digging and figure out where you ended up going, which might be a disaster for you if they decide to let the other school in on your lack of integrity. When it comes to actually sending it beyond emailing it directly to the Dean of Admissions, there are usually two options. One, to upload it into your portal through your secondary application, or two, email it to the admissions committee. I recommend you do both, even though the admissions committee will tell you just to upload it. If you only upload it, there is no guarantee that they will be notified that you put anything in there. Finally, sometimes a second letter is appropriate to send to a school. In one scenario, you might send a letter of interest and then a few months later decide to send a letter of intent. Or, in another case, you might have accomplished some big thing after sending your first letter and want to mention this new thing on another letter. Whatever the case, make sure that if you send a second letter, it is for a good reason and you aren't just sending one because you are getting antsy waiting for some kind of response from the school. I know the waiting period is rough, but hopefully this video helped with at least one thing you can do to briefly help with the stress of just constantly waiting.